Yeah. And you're putting good players back there. And then John, our boy Zion, huh? They're starting to up his minutes now. Pelicans. They won't unmute you for they're gonna
Gotta let them play the fourth quarter, Coach, which they did.
I know. Shit, he'll win some game for him.
That's the only reason why people are watching him.
Yeah. But it's amazing, like in the beginning, why they ain't playing and why to bring it, you get all that. And then if he comes out and he plays well, then it was a good decision. If he comes out and, gets hurt too early, well, they should have, it's like, a lot of it's a fine line between some of those decisions.
Yeah, with Mr. David, he caught a lot of flack for playing him 15 minutes and 2 games.
He was getting crushed.
All right, Coach, why don't you start us off with a quick opening statement, and then we'll go back to John for a football-related question.
That's all right. Hey, we can talk about anything. But anyway, I appreciate everyone being on it. Obviously, it's been it has been. I'm very happy with the way the week's going. I think, sometimes when you do these things, you're almost forced, when you do things like the split squad, because we went to 90, but I've actually found for ourselves, it's been really beneficial for us because we've been getting, a lot of reps with the young guys, and really that's what you're looking to do, because normally what happens is you have the rookie mini camp and you get a lot of reps, and then when the rookies get, put back into with your whole football team, then their exposure gets reduced so much. And I think that's been, something that, I kind of have in the back of my mind that in the future, this is not a bad way to start, your off season, with the way we're doing it. I think it's beneficial. I also think that, the players have been really compliant in trying to do all the right things with the rules and the protocols that are in place. And I think, that was my biggest goal, starting out, was to kind of get everyone used to it, because it's hard to explain or hard to communicate when people say, well, when this happens, it'll be close to normal, or when this happens, the goal of trying to get back to normal, I don't, and everyone has a different definition of what normal is to them, but everything that we're doing is different. So I don't, so I guess you kind of just condition yourself to get used to what you're doing now with the protocols. But I think if you, in your mind, if you ever want to condition, you could say to yourself, hey, when we get back to normal, I don't know if that's a good thought to have, rather than saying, hey, here are the protocols, here's what we're doing, let's do the best job we can with it. I look at it that way. Not to say it's not stimulating in the same way, you know what I mean? Like doing those things. But, we all know, we've been around. Everyone has their own, whether you get together with a group of guys at night to play cards, or you go bowling, or those things that even everyone out here appreciates. You go to the bar and have a drink, and it's the same old guys up there for JP. But, those are the things that you kind of, you don't have going on, family reunions where you get together. I remember, Pelham Bay Park in the Bronx. Shoot, we'd all be up there barbecuing. One family's all over here, about 50 people. Right next to you, about another 20, another 30, and those things aren't going on. So these are all things you have to get used to. So I think everyone's been doing a really good job of it. You don't hear a lot of oh, I can't believe we have to do this, or I can't believe we have to do that, or why can't we do this, or why can't we do that. So everyone's from a standpoint of being educated on it and knowing what we have to do. Everyone's been really good. All right, Ted.
All right. John, let's go to you for the first question, and just a reminder to look at the camera, Coach. Go ahead, John.
No problem. Coach, touch what you just said a little bit. How do you judge your progress right now with the walkthroughs, and particularly with your guys learning the new offensive system, and you only kind of going through walkthroughs right now? How do you judge progress, and what do you look for going into next week?
Yeah, I think you can't. You try to create expectations of the situation that you're in. So, are you taking good notes? Are you studying? Are you able to carry that over to the walkthrough? The types of questions you have on the field, since it's still walkthroughs, it's still communication. So, you can see if someone's not communicating now with their teammates or making calls, and obviously when it gets live or the practice ramps up, we really don't think that player will be communicating then. So if you have someone that's communicating well now, it doesn't mean that he'll communicate well when it gets live, but at least he had the ability to do so. So I think what we're doing is taking the situations we're in, creating the expectations for what's going on right now, knowing that we will have to make some decisions without a full evaluation, whether that's fair or not. It's just it's the situation we're in that we have to be able to do that. So I think, looking at it from that perspective, you're able to reach some goals, and everyone is able to communicate clearly of what they're looking for. But we all know at the end of the day, and I always say this, we really don't know until we start playing.
Thanks, John. We'll go over to D-Rock and then Gene.
Hey, Doug, what are a couple of the things that has you the most excited or optimistic that Josh Allen can build on what he did as a rookie?
I think it starts early on. So, like for me, D-Rock, it started. It didn't start when he reported here. It pretty started with conversations in the off season. How can I get on the field more? How can I be a better use for the team? I'll do anything it takes. And then talking about, what he's doing in his personal life, family, why, the maturity, and looking at what he can do better. So immediately when the season was over, I'm thinking to myself, this guy gets it. This guy is all of a sudden starting to put together a plan for himself of what he wants to do in the offseason, what he wants to do when he comes back, and is envisioning himself being successful on the field. That you need that first before you need anything. I think the next thing you look at is when you do get a visual, how has he shown up? You can say all that stuff and talk about that stuff, but you can show up and not be in shape, not be ready, not be focused. That's the exact opposite with Josh. So, I mean, all the indications are he's exactly where he should be. And that's one of the things that you get excited about, of seeing, hey, what when he gets on the field, it looks like he's done a heck of a job between when the season was over to now. And he looks like someone that is not satisfied, that's on a mission, that has a lot of goals, that has team goals. That's the other important thing, too, of, how do you, is it just about me, or, hey, what can I do for the team? How can I be a better leader? How can I, these are the conversations I've had with him that when you're a coach, those are the conversations that, when they're done, you're like, gosh, that's awesome. That's great. So, that's where Josh has been. And I've run into him in town. I ran into him out at the beach, not at physically the beach, but at the club. And, he's getting his body worked on, making sure that, hey, I'm ready to go and feeling good. I mean, so I was able to talk to him. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Because normally for me, I'm thinking, well, shoot, I'm, first year player, and you've gone through all the stuff the first year. Hey, I'm going to get away. I'm going to go relax. I'm going to do whatever I can. I think he's managed and balanced all that where he feels that he's in a really good position, and that helps our football team.
Gardner Minshew is kind of a quirky kid, as you obviously know. Do you think that some of that stuff that surrounds his personality may play into some people not maybe giving him the credit that he deserves for what he's done on the field, or maybe that he could grow into that leading quarterback role for you guys?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because so I go home last night, you know what I'm saying, and we're all socially distant, so we do a lot of at home, whatever we, we're away from each other. So I really don't have a lot of conversations. I almost feel like I'm away at camp. I get home last night and someone mentioned to me that, hey, did you see the thing about, Gardner, a dog barked and he barked it back. I'm like, and I'm looking at, and I don't know so many of the things that go on the outside. So it's hard for me, like when people like ask me about him or ask me about questions like that, that's the part I don't see. Does that make sense? In other words, I don't see that part in that player. Not to say that I can't see him not doing those things. You know what I mean? Because there's so many people that tell me, all those things about social media, RVs, and all that stuff. I see the guy that comes in with a mission and a focus every single day. So when he's here or around myself, and not to say that we might not laugh about something or joke, we do, but I don't see that other side that people will be say the quirkiness, the things of that nature. He's maybe I bring that out in people. I don't know, but I'm just saying I see a guy that's focused and is ready to go, and every time he's here and he's working, he's on a mission and he's really working with his teammates. So I'd say that he's someone that is I think has a really good personality. You know what I'm saying, and can really laugh at himself and do those things, which I think is important in life. I think that he's someone that can communicate with everyone on his team, no matter where you are, whether you're the guy that stays in the corner, whether you're out there, and I think that's great. So those things are positive, but make no mistake about it. When he crosses that line and he's on the field or he's in the classroom or when he's by himself, he's working extremely hard. That's what I see.
Thank you.
Thanks, D-Rack. Let's go to Gene and then Gary.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, Gene.
Could you just talk a little bit? I mean, you've touched on it a little bit about the challenge for these undrafted free agents. Didn't have the benefit of OTAs this year. A lot of them didn't even have any pro days at all, and it's quite possible some of them may have to be cut before they even get the shoulder pads on. Could you just talk about how just a very weird situation, very difficult situation for some of those guys?
It is, and I have, obviously, because of my background, I have a lot of empathy, for them, and you guys know my background and how I feel when these things happen. Imagine how awful I feel when I know that I haven't gotten enough information, where I've got to make decisions that in the past I've been able to complete a high level of information to be able to make those decisions and feel good about it, even though the process of releasing players is terrible. I've mentioned that many a times to the players that are here. What's going on is so tough. It went back to before I even worked out whether we were going to be at 90 or 80. Knowing that the work we put in and knowing that I think anything in life, as long as you have an opportunity, it may not work out well. It may not even be fair, but at least there's an opportunity to at least show something. So immediately when it came out to 90 or 80, I didn't even blink an eye. I was like, I'm going to 90. I just feel like it's just an important thing for me and what I believe is the right thing to do. And then I think it's right for our team also, obviously. So I've talked to a lot of these players about these difficult decisions and how hard it's going to be. And, we may make these decisions and we may be wrong, but if it's important for you to continue your career, you keep training. This year is so different, than any year in the past. I really feel I really don't like that position that I'm in personally. Now, I'm not talking about the league, and I'm not talking about rules, and I'm not talking about the scouts, the coaches, or anyone like that. I'm talking about me personally. It is it's not a good feeling. You know what I'm saying? It's not. It stinks, and there's nothing I can do to change that. I've tried to create these schedules where we can get the most out of our evaluation, from the players. But at the end of the day, I said this right away. I go, out of the history of this league, this is by far the toughest time for someone like you said, make this football team, because the opportunities are going to be extremely limited. And it's a shame because we're going to miss out on the greatest stories. In my mind, the greatest stories to me is a guy that's been working and all of a sudden comes out for the team tryout that's open to anyone. He tries out, he's got something, the odds are stacked against him, and all of a sudden he makes it. And not only does he make it, he winds up thriving. And we've seen this throughout the history, and we're going to, whether we like it or not, or whether we think we're experts in evaluating people, we're going to lose a little bit of that. And I don't know, maybe that's deep. Maybe I'm looking too far into it. But I think that's sad.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Gene. Let's go to Smitter and then Osher. Go ahead, Gary.
Okay. Hey, Doug. How you doing?
I'm sad.
Okay.
Yeah, that bothers me. So.
Let me see if it gets talking about a guy I know you like. I do a little something on DJ Hayden, and for the flexibility he's offered, the durability in the last 3 years that you've had him. Could you comment on what DJ has meant to this team? Like I said, both in terms of being a role player and being a guy who battles through a lot of bumps and bruises and still is there for you most weeks.
Absolutely, and leadership too. He provides a deal with that, as far as whether he may not be people on the outside may not know that they may look at him as not being vocal, but his example, of what he does for our football team is great. I think the one thing that I appreciate as a coach is that you always know what you're going to get. You always know you're going to get a guy that's going to he loves to play, he loves to be on the field, he's going to fight through injuries, wants to be out there for his teammates, has been productive for us in the role that he's in, being our starting nickel. And even now, he had a minor surgery in the off season. He comes back in, so that he's not been able to do as much as everyone else in a time where it's very difficult to be prepared. He's on the field, strength and conditioning. He looks good. He's a guy that, as a coach, you never want to take for granted, because he's always doing the right thing. And, there's a lot of times where I go up to him and tell him how much I appreciate, what he does. And he's a good football player. And we have a lot of young guys in that back end and that secondary. And I think he's someone that I know, if I was a young player and I walked into a locker room and I was looking to see what someone does, maybe because I felt like I didn't know, he'd be one of those guys that I would look at. So, I'm excited about where he is. I think he's he's shown that he's put, more than others might have been able to put in, with the minor surgery. And he looks good. I can't say enough about him and how fortunate we are to have him on our team. I love him.
Thank you, Coach.
Welcome.
Thanks, Smitter. Let's go over to Osher.
Unmute yourself, John. That's the number one frustration, I think, with all. I've done it too. So I'm, so he's like, you're on. You see someone tell you, like, oh, but I do make the same mistake, so I'm not throwing stones.
Oh, you gotta click your mute button.
Click your mute button.
I think he's staring at the computer. There we go.
I'm glad we could all laugh. We all have to be able to laugh.
That went over my head. Yeah, that was a good. Yeah, okay. You mentioned Josh Allen earlier, liking his approach. Are you seeing the same thing on offense out of DJ Chark?
Absolutely. Same type of situation. When the season's over, there's always that distance that comes from, being away. DJ was continuing to rehab, in the offseason coming in. And sometimes you worry, like when you're a player coming off, you go to the Pro Bowl and you come back there and, the mindset is, oh, hey, I'm around all these other guys. And, you never know. You just don't. I've seen it work a lot of different ways. You're never going to be able to present how a player, what he should do. He has to realize that himself, to be able to do it. And DJ, I think it's made him even hungrier. I think it's made him, but more importantly, and I say this about, and Joshua was the same way. When they come back in, the team concept, the winning concept to them, what can we do better? How can we win more games? What can I do to help? That's a whole different conversation than the one of, hey, I want to catch X amount of balls. I want to be a 1,000-yard receiver. I want this touchdown. You see, these are how these guys are talking, where whether you're a coach or whether you're a fan or whether you're, if you're someone that wants this team to do well, you really can get excited about that. And that's how DJ is. Hey, how can I, get with Gardner more, and how can I help these young receivers that are coming in? You're talking about a guy now. Neither player I'm surprised with, meaning about how their background was. And when I look back at talking with them, DJ was a guy that came out in his first year and excelled on special teams. Might have been one of the best players in the league, and then the following year, really did well, obviously, in playing the position we drafted him for in special teams. But if we said, hey, go out there a minute and be a gunner, he would do it. He would do whatever it takes to help the team. And I think when players talk about that, it's refreshing in an era where you see a lot of individualism. You see a lot of people talking about me and I, and those guys are different. They are. And different, when I say different, I'm saying different in a great way. I'm sure their families have had a lot to do with it. They're just wired a little bit differently in a positive way of they're confident in their ability, and they want that ability to be able to help the people around them. It's probably the best way to put it.
Thanks, Doug.
All right, thank you, Osh. Let's do 3 final questions. Let's do Jordan, Demetrius, and then finish with John Shipley. Go ahead, Jordan.
Hey, Doug. Thanks for doing this.
Oh,
What's been your impression of Laviska Shenault so far, both on the field and in the classroom?
good. I like it. There's a focus. I think you watch him. He can really. I mean, he really can catch the football. I mean, like really strong hands. I think that whole group of young guys that we have have been really impressive. With Laviska, I think that it's what you have to get used to, and you guys will see this is, how he's a big man. I think a lot of times when we think of receivers, we think of guys that are lean and fast and in and out. He's all that, but he's also big. I mean, you're talking to someone. I mean, so when you watch him, he's big, he's fast, he's explosive. You walk away, you're like, woof, this is going to be interesting. You know what I'm saying? And we have to do a good job as coaches, because right now when you look at them, there's so many things that you want to do, but we want to make sure that we don't go get too fast. You know what I'm saying? We want to make sure that, he's still going to have to, learn technique. He's going to have, we haven't seen press coverage. We haven't seen a lot of things that he's going to have to be able to defeat at this level. But same thing, guy that's on a schedule, knows how to take care of his body, doing all the right things now to be able to put himself in position to, really help this football team. So he and Colin have done a really good job. Plus, some of these young guys that we've gotten as free agents have really been impressive. They've been. It's going to be interesting. That roster, that part of the roster will be interesting once we start.
Great, thanks, Doug.
Sure, no problem.
Thanks, Jordan. And I lied. We're gonna do 3 now. We're gonna do Demetrius Shipley and then D-Rock. You're in a good mood, Coach. So let's keep you talking. Go ahead, Demetrius.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? DeJuan Smoot sort of took big strides last year after a couple years of not really putting it all together or getting injured. What have you seen out of him in terms of his determination, his work ethic, and then coming into this year, I've heard he's already training and everything during the off season. Just what have you seen out of him and where he has to go to progress further?
Yeah, I think that first of all, I was really excited for him last year. I thought he really helped us in a lot of things, and he has some flexibility moving him around. And then it goes back to the same thing for us. You never know, especially when you don't see anyone for a long period of time. You never really know how they're going to show up, right? I mean, you just don't. And he showed up, and I was like, "Woof, he looks good." I mean, he looks good, and I mean, as a football player, I mean, he's big, he's strong, he's moving well. So I really think that whatever happened, for whatever reason or anything like that, I think, he caught a little bit of that success maybe last year, felt real good. And then all of a sudden, I usually do it with food. If I eat something and I like it, I start eating more of it and I get fat, where I think he's gotten a little bit of, tasting what it's like, and he knows he can do it, and he knows he can play at this level. And I think that's accelerated him, to a position where he is now, where, I think he's excited. I mean, it's just different. It's not kind of looking around. It's like he wants to get out there and do it and get better. And, those things have been, really, really encouraging. But, he's a smart guy. I think he sees it, and I think he doesn't want to lose, the opportunity. I think he doesn't want to have any regrets, and I think he's going to take full advantage of it, and that's going to help our football team.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Go ahead, Shipley.
There we go. Appreciate it. Hey, Coach. You guys, made additions to really address the depth really all across the defense this offseason. But how do you feel about your linebacker group now after, making additions both via free agency and the draft, just with the depth you guys have there?
Yeah. I would say overall, like you said, when you talk about depth, it's the best I felt really since I've been here. I mean, we've had, at times we've had good starters, excellent starters, and I think we have, some excellent starters, and we have some really good depth. I think that depth that can provide, a lot of times with that position is tough because sometimes, your depth's going to be provided by guys that can play special teams, and you might not feel as good about them if they had to go in there and start for, more than 3 or 4 games. Sometimes it's a young guy that you've taken that's not going to be ready yet. Maybe it's a little bit too much for him because it's much different than college. But right now, I think that I like what I see out there with the starters. I love what I see out of the young guys, whether they've been drafted like Shaq or Nate Evans. The free agent acquisitions have been good. They're guys that are working their butts off to go. And it's probably sometimes it's like. Sometimes when you're getting down the roster, you're like, oh, this is going to be easy. You're not happy with it, but it's going to be easy. But I think this is going to be interesting. I think that, we've got some guys now with depth. I don't know about pushing for the starting jobs, but I want them to because I think it's just going to make them better. But and they got to be ready to go in there and start. But as far as they're picking up what we want to do defensively, going out there, the young guys have been good. The free agent guys have been working their butts off. So, probably for all three, I feel really good about where we are there.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Sure. No problem.
Thank you, John. And let's finish up with D-Rock.
Hey, Doug, did you have any staffers or assistant coaches consider opting out or opt out this year because of the virus concerns?
Well, I think one of the things when all this stuff first started, to happen, you look at it, and as the head coach or a leader of an organization, or at least for me, whenever we're all in charge of our working environment, right? I mean, we're in charge of how you do it. And why we addressed it early on, meaning like, I'm like, look, guys, no matter what's coming out or how the protocol or whatever it may be, there's a risk. And all of us have different types of risk, you know, depending if I'm talking about from what you read, you know, whether you have a condition, whether you have this. I mean, you have young kids, you have people with conditions at home. There's a lot of things that factor into it. So for me, you know, we've had a lot of discussions where I've talked to the coaches. I said, look, I understand, you know, if anyone has any issues or anything like that, just make sure we're communicating. We'll see what we can do. There's a lot of different things that you can do if someone doesn't feel comfortable, whether being around the building or being on the practice field. So we've had a lot of these conversations, and as of now, everyone feels good about where we are. So, you know, that's where we are. But I think if you don't have those conversations and you try to put people in situations that they don't feel comfortable, whether it's a coach, player, no matter who it is, you know, that's not. I just don't think that's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks, D-Rock. Coach, you got any closing remarks?
You're being a little bit of an ass. I'm just saying. You're telling me how I should feel. You're feeling good, so we should go on. How do you know I'm feeling good? I could feel like shit. I mean, Gene's question made me depressed. I mean, not the question, not Gene's question was a good question. It was me going through that. And then now you're like, what else do you have to say because you think I'm in a good mood? I mean, between you and JP, all right, you guys are killing me. All right, so good day. Anyone ever needs me, I'm fine. I'll make myself available. All right, I appreciate it. And like anything else, you know, stay safe and looking forward to seeing you guys soon. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.